Attention, all views and opinions expressed in this video and channel are for educational purposes only.
All right, everybody, so we are back and Bella has showed up again.
In the house.
We're very pleased to have her. Bella, you're going to share some we're going to talk about TPE, right?
Yes, the good old TPE.
Yeah, we're going to talk about TPE, but I think, Bella, what we should do, honestly, is talk about how this compares to Champs.
It's a whole different show. I honestly think it is a whole different beast. And I knew going into it that it was, but I really wasn't prepared, like, how different it was. Even when I walked into the building, it was very different, because I remember saying it to you, oh my gosh, this is very different.
Because this was your first one.
This was my first one. So I've been to three other, this would be my third show that I've been to that's different brands. And I say it's very different. Every show that I've went to that's different, it's different in their own ways.
Okay, that being said, all right, I agree that this is very different. But that being said, what was the big standout difference in those three shows?
For me, so I went to, my first one I ever went to was Alt Pro. And that one, it just felt like a beginner show. So if you're just starting out and you don't know what you're doing, Alt Pro is the way to go. I personally
agree.
It's the first step going into this, like, into the world. It's not like overly dramatic. It's not crazy. It's not loud. It's kind of like the small show where you just go to, like, dip your toe into the industry. Right?
Yeah, it's a one-day show.
It really is. And that's all it is. And if you're wanting to go in and out and you want to get what you need to get done, that's it. That's a great show for that. Champs is a beast on its own. And I remember being told that because I've always grown up with you going to Champs, you meeting crazy people. And I remember getting a phone call once and you were like, yeah, I met this rapper and his name was like DaBaby or something. And I was like, did you get a picture with him or something? He's like, no, I just thought he was some no-name artist. And I remember that. And I still am like, really? Like, really? And that's like, you're going to see some crazy outlandish people at Champs. And like, that's really, Champs is a party show. It is the big monster show. And that's what I've always known it as. But with TPE, honestly, I think they have the best branding and the best business concept of them all. And they're very good in that aspect. And I think it's a show where if you have like a cigar lounge, but you're trying to like separate it into more of a smoke shop run, that's the way to go. Because it's the best of both worlds.
I have to agree. I think if you're not worried about the pageantry of Vegas, but you want to do the business of cigars or of a smoke shop or vape lounge or whatever you're doing, or even, this year I even saw gift items.
Yeah, I thought that was different too. And that's kind of like we were talking about going to ASD. They're kind of incorporating the ASD aspect into it.
I think you're going with TPE. I think you're going to see more. Well, I mean, I hate to use the word inclusivity, but I think you're going to see more items to fill your store up with that aren't necessarily traditional. I think they're watching my videos is what I think that they're doing. Mm-hmm. And I think they're seeing that you're going to have to add
everything.
It's going to be fucking thing.
Alternative show.
That's exactly right.
It's not going to be one of those things where it's smoke shop and that's it. And really, with Champs, that's all it is. It's smoke shop and that's it, and skateboarding now, and that's it.
I look for the motorcycle aspect coming in. I look for that.
I look for it too. I look for like the race cars and all that. I'm waiting for
kind of psycho shit going on with that, because I'm telling you that skateboard aspect of it.
It's getting outlandish. It's getting like outlandish what they're doing.
Well, yeah, but I think that's what they're looking for. I think that you are literally getting what they're looking for, and I think that I think it's desperate.
I think so too. And I think what's happening is they're grasping for straws because they don't have everything else. They were so like, when we went, it was the 7-0 show. And then back in the day, it was the CBD show, and then it was the Delta show, and then it was the hemp show, it was the Kratom show.
Well, I would even argue that maybe they're evolving. They're
I think they're
evolving. But I would also like to think about, I mean, I don't think that we're because I know a lot of shops carry spray paint and art supplies and a lot of stuff like that. Well, that ain't there.
No.
But they have no problem with blow up dolls and dildos and butt plugs there.
And things from the ceiling.
I mean, there's a lot of, I mean, no two ways about it, man. There's a lot of foolishness there.
Yeah, and I agree. And I really think what I think TPE does well about is when the industry finally really regulates itself, they're going to be alive still.
Well, I don't think the word regulates what you're looking for. The word right is because it's going to implode and eat itself.
And I really think shows like Champs are going to kind of be like stuck, and maybe they're seeing it, and that's the reason why they're pivoting towards the skateboard.
Well, I wish they would expand the glass games, and I wish they would expand more of that, because when I first started going, I always enjoy, honestly, I liked seeing the wrestlers and the boxers and things like that. I liked seeing that, but I enjoyed the artistry of the glass game, and it used to be that Champs was full, and I mean full, of American-made glass.
That's
not true now.
It's more Chinese glass.
It's more Indian. It's more Chinese. It's more mass-produced. You're seeing a lot less American product there. Now, that's not Champs' fault. That's really not.
No, you're seeing a lot of like the AA27s. Like,
I agree.
Like those little.
I agree.
Like you're seeing a lot of that there.
But I mean, it's not Champs' fault that these people are not showing up and coming to the table, and it's not Champs' fault of who wants to come and be a part of it.
But
that's
but
not what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's poor management. I'm saying it's the people that are wanting to be there.
But let me counter that. It could also be Champs' fault because how they were done in the past. Because we have heard from people that they don't go back to Champs because of the way things were handled. And I've heard that. And because I heard that in a few of the booths at TPE, that they would rather go to TPE because it's better to deal with than it is with Champs. And I'm not afraid to say that.
I think there comes a time where people just get tired of dealing with some issues that are being had.
I mean, because I know personally we've dealt with issues with them.
We have in the last year have dealt with some issues, and there are some very juvenile behavior within that organization. But on the other, I mean, that could be said at a lot of different shows, to be honest.
Because you know what, I'm fond of that. Because I'm very for TPE, but we've also heard that there were some things that happened at TPE, right? Because we heard it from one of the vendors that we deal with, right? But also, it's the way it's handled. Now, I don't know how it was handled at TPE.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't either.
I don't know that, but I do know the people that do run it.
I know that vendor really, really well. I know him very, very well. I know his family. I know his whole organization. He is not a fan right now of TPE.
No, and honestly, I wouldn't be either. I wouldn't be either if I was.
Especially with as big as he is.
Yep.
To get stuck in the very back of the building
was very weird.
That was very, very odd.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And that's why I'm saying I'm not a whole Champs hater. I hate Champs. I do. I love Champs. I like going to Champs. I think it's fun.
And on the other hand, we deal with a particular kratom, two particular kratom guys.
Yep.
One of them didn't show the kratom. The other one did. Because I don't want to get into naming names and none of that shit. Because I don't want to get into the politics of this shit. But he got stuck in a very out of the way place.
Yeah.
When they have shown consistently year after year after year, and then somebody brand fucking new with the same size booth
got to go up front.
Got to go up front.
Was that a TPE or Champs?
TPE.
Yeah. See, like there's downsides on all aspects of it. Like it's gonna happen. But I just think the way things are handled can fix a lot of issues too. And
Well,
also with other things at Champs, like I like Champs. Don't get me wrong. I like it a lot because I like to go see who's going to be there. I like to see everyone because I think it's a party. Honestly,
Well,
it's a younger aspect crowd.
I think you have bigger booths. I think you got flashier booths. I think you got, I mean, I could do a lot less with the Insta hose. I could do a lot less with that. I'm really surprised we haven't started seeing half naked dudes there too. I really am.
Yeah, I'm waiting for that.
Well, I'll tell you this though. I think the reason why is because of how many men go to that show.
Yeah.
Whereas when you see TPE,
there's more women.
There's a lot of women. Like real business was being done at TPE.
Yeah.
Where I feel like at Champs, it's more of a social aspect.
And it's a lot of like you talked about in one of the videos, it's a lot of like having those conversations. You're able to develop them on the show floor at TPE, but at Champs, you're like, I'll talk to you after the show.
That's foolish. Let's talk about something new in pre-rolled innovation. Blunted Cones spent a year testing moisture levels, flavor profiles to create something the market didn't have. A premium blunt cone with a mesh filter. Brands can now build their own unique pre-rolled products using new flavors, terpene profiles, and different cone formats that stand out on the shelf. Blunted Cones isn't just another product, they're trying to set the standard for premium smoking experiences.
Another thing that I love that TPE did is they had those lounges. Those lounges were very nice, and being able to actually build relationships, which is what a trade show is supposed to be. You're supposed to go there. You're supposed to build relationships with your buyers. You're supposed to do it with your customers, and you're supposed to network. Really, trade shows, that's what I think is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about.
I just don't want to scream at my vendor and try to talk to them over somebody's blaring ass music with this great big fucking speaker. What the fucking point is that?
No, and you know what? It was so much easier to film at this show than it was.
Well, I felt like we could actually film.
Yeah.
Without worrying about the copyright.
No, and another thing is like I've done videos and I feel like I have to scream in the mic because I can't hear. TPE, I didn't have to do that. And at All Pro, you didn't have to do that either.
I can't tell you how many times I didn't film people that I wanted to because right across the street was some goat that was just blaring some kind of rap crap that I knew was going to get me copyrighted.
And there was no way we could even like salvage footage.
Yeah, there was nothing to talk about. I mean, that those people, and I mean, I realize that that's part of their
gimmick,
bullshit persona of their show atmosphere. Yeah. But I mean, come on, man.
It doesn't have to be that way.
It sure as fuck didn't. So, and I mean, literally, I told people, hey, man, I'd like to film you, but he's not gonna fucking turn that down because he's an asshole.
Yeah. And I know it.
And he's this monkey that just would not stop with that loud ass music.
Yeah.
And he had everybody sitting in couches and they partying it up. What the fuck are you doing?
Exactly. Like you
paid thousands of dollars to do it.
Yes, exactly. And then these people, I know a booth that had to make over $1 million, almost $2 million, to break even on the show.
He did not, by the way.
Oh, I didn't think he did. There was no way. He didn't
get half of it.
Like I said, you had to break even with that much money. Like we don't have time to party. I'm sorry, but that was stressing me.
He told me he didn't even sell half.
Oh, I know that. There's no way to even do that with that atmosphere. I remember sitting in the office, and that's what he told us that. And I remember your face went white because you were like, how can you put this much money into a booth?
Thank God he had that McClellan over there so I could start drinking.
Yeah, I know. And then he had like Casa Azul bottles on the other side. He had like 4 or 5 of those. I was like, I could have cut your alcohol money in half.
Not me, man. I would have added more if I had to do $1 million just to break fucking even.
Well, I mean, I'm cutting out money at that point. I'm
I
trying
mean,
to cut
Jesus
money
Christ,
at that.
man. I just could not believe when he told me that. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah,
But I
was
mean,
like,
that was Champs.
But again, that's the thing is you have to be the big crazy booth at Champs, and you have to.
But he told me for this other, because it's the same guy. I know who you're talking about. The same guy just did this smaller footprint at TPE, and he said they converted 70-80% of the people that showed up.
See, really, that's the thing is you don't need the big crazy booth. Honestly, you don't see that at TPE. You don't see the craziness with
even the big.
You don't see that.
No.
I think it's a clean show. It's what a show should look like.
It's extremely clean, especially with that carpet.
I love the carpet.
Hey, and did you notice something else? Did you notice something else you didn't see every little bit? You didn't see a bar.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
On every other roll, you didn't see it.
No, I didn't see. I think I saw maybe one.
I saw them at the end of the rolls, and
I only saw it once, but I also was running around checking the head cut off when I was there.
I understand because you was only there one day.
Yeah.
And so I saw that at the end of each aisle and at the front of the bottom, and then I saw it up at the top at the very end. 5 bars, like mobile bars. The rest of them,
Now
that
Champs has probably like 12 or 15.
Oh, there was more than that. There's
a
lot.
I know, but like it's in the double digits with at least how many they have.
And you everywhere you went, everybody had a drink. Now, if you noticed, that wasn't true at TPE.
No, and you know what else I liked?
They was there to spend money.
Yeah. You know what else I liked? I liked that you were able to sample products. And
you notice that the other show, you have to, no, you don't know it, but you have to go off site now.
Oh, I know. I know that insurance issue.
That show also had drug dogs and the sheriff's department.
I know that was really odd.
And I was uncomfortable.
I know, and it felt really weird. It felt like we were doing something wrong by being there.
Well, I don't think I didn't feel that we was doing something wrong, but I felt like we was in the middle of something and didn't understand the whole thing. And people asked me, what's all the cops doing here? What's going on? What's going on? And I felt like that there was something that was never told to people.
Yeah. And that's another thing is like, I don't like that aspect.
I don't want to feel that way. No,
I don't know if something had happened there and that's the reason why they did it, or that's just what they had, because we were told that it was the convention center doing this. Well, I don't think that's
we was in the same convention. We was in the same
convention center, and they were
same building. Same building.
Exactly, and they were claiming something about how whenever this other show has to renew their contract with them, that would be different. No, I actually talked to them one-on-one, and that's not true because they've already renewed it.
Yeah, they're good. I
talked to the person who physically went in that meeting and dealt with that.
Yeah, they got a 3-year contract. They got a 3-year contract, and but they said that there had been some rules broken by other shows.
Yep, and that's the reason why they put it.
And because of that, they were going to have a hard time staying at that convention center.
Exactly, and that's the thing. You don't follow the rules, you get kicked out, and that's I hate to say that, but that's the way it's going to go. And like, I don't get that. I don't get why we can't follow the rules. Follow the rules, people. It's fine. There's a reason why there's rules there.
But I saw some of the same people going to both shows, but I did not see some of the bigger vendors that go to Champs at TPE.
Yeah.
But I also didn't see the stupidity there either.
Yeah. You don't see
as far as the redundancy.
Yeah, you don't see a lot of the same things. Like, I don't go to the next person and it's the exact same stuff.
Right. And they wasn't like, it wasn't the 7-0 show, and it wasn't there. Honestly, I can't even tell you anything that was predominantly there that was in mass. I can't tell you that. I saw a lot of glass. I saw some vape. I saw a lot of Delta-esque product.
I saw Kratom.
I saw a lot of Kratom product. I saw a lot of new product.
I saw a lot of alternative things to get people off nicotine.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that, a lot of pouches. Of course, there was a lot of cigars, but it is a cigar show. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. No,
But
yeah, that's really
only
what it was.
20%. Only 20%
Exactly. And they keep them in one area. So
in one area, so that if that's all you want, you can go right to it and bounce.
Exactly. And they show you on the floor where your tobacco area is.
Right.
And after that, everything else is non-tobacco.
Well, and you know something else that looking back at it, it's something to talk about as well. I noticed that it just didn't feel like it didn't feel like it was all like one lane. It didn't feel like you were just going up and down, up and down, up and down. And I didn't feel like that. I felt like that when you went into a certain section, you weren't just saying, okay, this is where all the vapes are. Okay, this is where all the glass is. Okay, this is where all the gift items are. I didn't feel that way, because you remember at that one time upstairs of the Champ Show, you took off the massive fast walk because you didn't want to be in the middle of all that porno shit.
Yes.
And you know, how many other women felt that way?
Oh, I know a lot of people that did. Because
me too.
I don't feel comfortable even being in that area.
But, and I mean, on the other hand, I know stores that sell that type of product within their shop. And that's not saying that they're doing anything wrong.
No.
You're talking for you about not feeling comfortable.
I mean, I don't want to be there with my dad. That's a weird area. I remember back in the day when we did a sex ed video. That was an odd video we ever did. That was the weirdest thing I had ever done. It was so weird. I hated it. Like that's just weird to me. No. And I just, no. Have you, okay, I don't remember if you ever have. Have you done Champs, like actually showed at Champs? Personally, as a business, which show do you think is better?
Well, that's not fair. That's not fair. That's not fair to either side. Because I had a great big booth at Champs.
Yeah.
I had a 10 by 20 at Champs, and we had a full layout of what we had, and we did pretty decent with that. And so I felt like I got my money's worth there. And
because mainly what I'm thinking is, did you get your money's worth showing at all? Well, you also showed at Alt Pro too. At all three shows, did you feel like you got your money's worth there? Yeah,
I felt like I got my money from that too, because I got a lot of residual customers from that.
Yeah, that's really what I want to see.
Because if you don't know it, but I have a lot of Texas customers, and so my Texas customers I got from that show.
Yeah.
So I sometimes ask myself if I wouldn't be better off to do some regional shows as well.
I honestly, I know that's something we had talked about, is possibly you going back and actually showing again.
Well, I'll have to be there. Yeah, that's one or the other. I agree. I'll have to figure that out. But, and then you're talking about TPE. I think Grover got to hook back up with some customers. But on the other hand, we didn't pay for that booth.
Yeah. So it was really just,
I mean, that was part of my compensation for what we did. So I just want to be totally honest. I don't want to.
No, that's true. Yeah. And Alt Pro, you got a free booth too. I know that.
And that, again, that helped out a lot. So don't get me wrong. But we didn't get a free booth. We still had to buy the booth, and we still had, but we got the spot.
Which still, sometimes the spot is worth a lot of money.
I mean, at Champs, it's worth several $1,000s.
Yeah,
at TPE, you know, it's worth several dollars still. And then at Alt Pro, it was worth several dollars. So don't get me wrong about that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I just want to be totally honest and fair to Champs, because Champs, a lot of people. I mean, and at that time when I did that, there was an extreme amount of people at that show.
I think if you are a first show person, you are just launching your show, like your business, I think Champs is the way to go, because it is the most people and is the easiest way to get brand exposure.
It's when you're seasoned and you have enough inventory and fulfillment
to go to the others.
To go to TPE.
Yes. And at that point,
Because
that's
you
when
better
you do
be
it.
about your business with those people.
Oh yeah, 100%. Because they will make sure that you're qualified to be there.
Yeah, because you have to be approved to be there. You can't just sign up and give them money. Whereas I feel like at Champs you can.
Yeah. It feels like a pay to play.
Because a lot of people at Champs, I have placed thousands of dollars worth of orders and never got them.
Really?
Yeah. Flakes, complete flakes. I don't pay them. I place the order.
Yeah.
But I refuse to give them the credit card. Call me when you're ready to ship.
Yeah, no.
I'm not paying for anything up front. You're not going to hold my money because there's so many horror stories about Champs where people gave their credit card and it took them months to get that order. Mainly because they paid for it before it left China.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's how they use it to fund. That used to be the business model, Bella, is you would pick the money, you'd get all the money in the pre-order, then you place the order, and then you're at the wheel of customs to even get it through.
And we know how bad customs can be.
Huh?
I said we know how bad customs can be with getting stuff in.
That's my point.
Oh, that sounds awful.
Yeah.
That sounds like a headache in itself.
And my first year I was victim to that, and I never did it again because it damn near broke us.
Yeah. Well, because it can really break a business by doing that.
Well, yeah, I mean, to be holding $3,000-$4,000 for 5 months, and you've done that at 5 or 6 different places in the building.
Yeah.
So think 5 times 6 is $30,000, and you think in today's money that don't sound like a whole lot of money.
But back then it was.
It is. It is a lot of money.
Honestly, you know what? Some businesses, that's still a lot of money. I mean, firsthand,
$1,000 to me is a lot of money.
Yeah, I think it is too.
Because I know what that means to people who have 1,000 square foot store, and when they place that order with UNS Wholesale, I swear to you, if you pay, it ships. Even if I have to drive that shit to UPS, I mean it. It's shipping because I know what every dollar means.
Exactly. And you know what? Sometimes I've even seen you drive it across state borders.
If need be.
I've seen that done. And I've heard it because UPS wasn't shipping out and you knew it had to be there because it was like gummies or something like that. And it was in the middle of like July. And if it was sitting in that warehouse for a weekend, it was all going to be done for. And we all knew it. And I remember you drove it all the way to Indiana, which is, it's probably like 30 minutes from us. But still,
that's not. Yeah. So I mean, don't think I'm driving over Kansas or nothing. But I mean, no. But I mean, still, I drove it because I knew, one, they paid.
And they needed it.
Or they wouldn't have asked for it. And then to have had it sitting in limbo for that period of time. I mean, and it wasn't an extreme amount of money, as far as that goes. But it was still enough to matter.
I mean, honestly, I like to say, like, when we have orders, I'm like, well, it's better than zero. Because zero is bad.
Oh, I don't give a shit what it is. If it's 150 bucks, I don't care. As long as it's 150, because you got to make it worth the logistics.
Yeah, and at that point, we explain that, why it makes sense. Because if not, you're going to be paying more in shipping than you are in product.
So anything else you can think of that it was because I could go off on a tangent about this whole wholesale thing, but anything else that you thought was glaring as far as
different than other shows? The education at one show I saw is about current legislation. It's not about the future.
It was not about how to keep your store going. Yeah,
it was about more of like, here's the news. I could Google that if I want to.
Me too. I mean, I got this here Google phone, and anytime I want to, I can look up kratom legislation, Kentucky, or anytime I want to look up hemp legislation or vape legislation. I don't need a panel of experts.
No.
That I don't even know.
No.
It's a handful of people that I even have ever known.
You've been in the industry for how many years?
Or the dinosaur club that shows up.
Yeah.
Of the legends of cannabis. Nobody gives a fuck.
Yeah, no one cares.
How does that help my stores
It doesn't
move forward? I don't give a fuck. I don't care about people who got it started. I don't care.
No, maybe because we spoke at that show, and obviously we like going and speaking, we like talking, but also I like to say at the other show that we went to, what we had just gone to, it was very much like, let's keep the business going. How do we develop the business from going to 1 to let's go into 2? Then how do we go from 2 to go to 3? How do we go to 3, go to 4? Things like that. And like things you should put into your store. Like that's what you talked about, is like products you should do. And I talked about like the social media aspect, and really mine was like giving hope back to the industry. And that's what I mainly was wanting to do, was you can do this. It's not a bad thing to do. And I wanted to give hope when hope has really been lost in the industry.
Well, I'm hoping that we have your episode out because maybe they've already seen it by now, because we have both mine and yours from the presentation, and we're going to be able.
I haven't even seen yours.
Oh, well, I know you wasn't there. And so we are going to post that. Yep. And I was very real about it, man. I talked about my failures and things I had done that was a complete fuck up. And I was very, very honest and very open, probably more than I had ever been in that type of setting before. Yeah. But I wanted them to know, man, you have done nothing compared to my fuck ups.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, and that's the best way to do it. And
well, I wanted to tell them the truth, that where I had goofed this up so much, and that's why I can tell you now how to do it, because I've already fucked it off. I've already done it.
Exactly.
And you can't tell me shit about this industry that I ain't already goofed up. You can't do it.
True. That's very true. It's very true.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's like the biggest difference is if it's not the show floor, it's the education that you're getting away from the show.
Well, and I appreciated all the other speakers. I loved the cigar speakers that was there, that was on stage before me. They were very famous. These two famous brothers that had a cigar shop down south, and they had not only were they a black-owned business, but they started up with pennies, man. I mean, I don't even understand how they even got started. And
I mean, it was kind of like how you got started.
Exactly. But I mean, these guys, though, went into a business that wasn't predominant in their community.
Yeah, which is hard.
They built it up into a beast. And I mean, it's monstrous.
Because there's
these two guys, one of them was up there in a jersey, and he, I mean, very clean. He's very nice looking. His brother, dreadlocks, the whole 9 yards. Two well-spoken cats, man, about cigars and the industry and the regulations, and I mean, very, very, very intelligent cats, and which just goes to speak on, don't judge a book by the cover.
Yeah.
But man, I'm telling you, I had been following those two guys on Instagram for so long, and when you look at their shop, you're like, holy shit. Yeah. Holy shit. You know, they have got the shop. Mm-hmm. It's the spot. And they have got a mix where people drive in from out of state just to smoke one cigar in their lounge.
That's crazy. Yeah.
I mean, they have got it going on, man. And it's and then, you know, we all the lady that come behind me, a little monotone for me, and she spoke on kratom and kratom regulations.
And see, they still that's the thing, they still had the regulations. Like the person after me was from NATO, so they dealt with all that. We still have the whole news aspect to it, but we also have added sessions where it's education.
I thought their quality of speaker was much better.
I don't think
it was so politically motivated. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I feel like that is a good way to put that.
Because one time they had these speakers at Champs that was from the Kratom Association.
Yeah.
That I don't know if they knew very much about what the fuck they was talking about.
Yeah.
I think they were given some talking points, and they were, but when they were questioned about them,
They couldn't do it.
I felt like they stammered and just didn't know what the hell they. I
And
think they made.
they were
I
kind of
think they
making
made
it
it
up.
up and lied. I think they made it up and lied,
Yeah.
which killed me. I thought, man, and which immediately gave me the whole thought process that that whole organization's a scam.
Yeah.
And I still think it.
Yeah.
Because I think, all they do is tell you to contact your legislature. What the fuck are you doing for the money that they're giving you?
Yeah.
Putting out an email? I mean,
Yeah.
fuck. I mean, Google tells me I can make a Google alert and it'll tell me when there's legislation in my state or city or county, and it'll tell me that. I don't need you. I don't need to give you $50 or $100 a month for that.
No, not at all. And I think I think it's just a different class of education.
I felt, but on the other hand, I thought she had some great slides that made some great points about what she was talking about. And that's another thing. I love the whole visual background where you don't get that at the other show.
Yeah, I like that aspect. And you'll
You get
see
a
that if
panel
you
of
haven't seen the video.
experts,
Yeah, where they just
and
sit
they
there.
all sit in chairs and they talk to each other and into the crowd, and they answer the bullshit on the crowd. They don't have a real presentation. They don't have anything. And I felt like that's the difference.
It doesn't feel like there's like, I like the way it was set up. It was set up like your presentation, you talked out loud. And that was the one thing we were like, we would like a Q&A, because that's what we do best is a Q&A. And because I want to help everyone. I want to be in those real life scenarios. What is going on in your business and how can I help? That's mainly how I opened it up. And
I felt like that a lot of those guys and girls that was there, they weren't taking a break. They came to see what we had to say.
Yeah. And definitely in my session, I don't know about yours because I wasn't there for it. It was real life aspects of, this is what I'm doing with my business. What should I do differently because it's not working?
Well, you had people, I filmed yours, and people would come by and catch something that you said and stop moving.
Yeah.
And then they would bring bags full of samples.
Yeah.
And they would get in the chairs and sit and listen. I watched it happen. I know it's true.
And
they had us right in the middle of the top of the floor.
Yeah.
And as people would walk down the main drag, they were almost forced to listen to it to a certain point. But then if they really wanted to get up close and personal, they had headphones that you could listen to the whole thing in.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like, I just like the whole aspect of like, they gave me like a Q&A aspect. Let's open it up to the floor. Who has problems? What can we do to
several had problems.
There were several that did. And it was little things that could be changed, like naming of brands. And is it being pulled because of this thing? Yes, it's happening because of this. And you'll see that in the video if you haven't already. But like, it was very real problems.
Feeling weighed down? Choose Ultimate Gold Detox, the advanced detox drink that stimulates your body's natural cleansing process and kicks in under 60 minutes. Simply follow the easy instructions, drink, hydrate, and let it work. Available in multiple sizes and delicious flavors. For a quick, powerful cleanse you can count on. Ultimate Gold Detox. Detox made simple. Well, there was a fellow there, man, that was asking me questions, and he was talking about legislation in Kentucky and how we were dealing with that. And I was just very frank and open, and of course you'll see that in the video too. Come to find out, that guy's got 39 stores.
Oh.
In Michigan.
Oh, right over the bridge.
Yeah, and so you never know that by looking at him.
Exactly, and that's the thing.
His whole organization was in that building, and I met all of them as well.
And I like the aspect of being able to help, and that's always what we've done with this channel. Is like, really, I think that's the main reason you started doing like this, is because you had been helping people for so long, and you wanted to finally actually do this as a profession. is to
Well,
actually help people.
and I also believe that TPE gave me the ability to even talk to more people at one time.
I agree. And I feel like it'd be people that normally would not hear us.
Whereas I don't feel like Champs is ever going to ask me and you to talk.
I don't believe it either. And because it's politically motivated.
I totally agree.
So, but
And
yeah,
I
I
don't,
think that's the
and
biggest
I
thing.
don't care who's a Democrat and I don't care who's Republican.
I
I
don't
don't give
care.
a fuck. All your money's green.
Yeah, I see one color and it's green.
I don't give a fuck.
I don't care. I don't care what it
about
is.
your sexuality. I don't care. All I want
No.
you to do is just not pull that shit into my yard.
Yeah, I don't care. I don't care about it. I really don't. I can work with anyone.
Yeah, and I have. And
I have too.
But on the other hand, I mean, I just don't want to argue with people. I tell them flat out I have failed more than I have succeeded. But
Yep.
this is why I know exactly what I'm talking about.
Exactly. So
And I do know what I'm talking about, and I appreciate being allowed to speak.
I do too.
And I appreciate being allowed to. I wasn't censored or anything like that. I
No.
wasn't asked to tailor the conversation.
I
wasn't.
honestly was prepared for that to be a conversation.
I really felt like they were going to want me to submit my talk. Well, that's not what I do. I don't have an outline of shit. That's never what I do.
The only time they ever did, because they asked me for both the slide deck, is because they wanted to be able to promote it correctly.
Yes.
That's it. And you know what? I will do that every day of the week. And I told them, I was like, hey, listen, this could change all the way up to, because everything changes so quickly. And I said, definitely with yours could have been changed like that day, honestly, because of what happened. Something could have happened overnight.
Yeah.
And we would have had to pivot. Now I'm glad that didn't happen because I don't know how that would have worked.
Well, I remember talking to the president of TPE, and I asked her, I says, Ellie, I says, do you have watched the videos, right? Oh, yeah, we love them. We love them. And I'm like,
we love them here.
I said, you understand that sometimes I talk a little raw, right? You know, because I know this is a 90% woman-run show. I understand that. And she's like, well, yeah, I get that. She says, but I feel like it's not out of context. And I says, well, how do you want me to handle that up on stage? I said, because I don't have to talk like that. I could censor myself. She says, well, you know, just kind of read the room. If you don't feel like that, you know, they can take it and that they're sissies, then maybe you can, you know, tone it down. Okay. You know, that's how I felt. I was like, okay. You know, I was never asked not to talk a certain way or act a certain way. And because I told her I could be very professional. She goes, no.
I warned her about that before because I talked to her about that type of stuff. I was like, you know, it can be a little outlandish sometimes.
Yeah.
I said, and you know, because I was talking about how like it was your first time having a real presentation behind you because you're so used to just blurting. And I had to really make sure, like the technology aspect, you were able to have a clicker because I really didn't trust that you would be able to like figure it out quick if you were like nervous or anything like that. But there was a clicker, and I love clickers. They were really, you know what? It was so easy to set up and whole 9 yards. The whole crew there.
Oh, that team that they used was professional.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it sounds like we're just rah and TPE, but there's a reason for that.
There's a reason for it. I think it's a different class of show.
But it's a different show.
Exactly. And that's the glory things. Like there is good and bad in every show. Is mainly what we want to point out is like it's good in every aspect.
I just don't feel like that we were. I feel like it's more of a business show.
Yeah.
I don't feel it was a very social show.
No.
It was set up for you to go in and spend some money. It was set up for you to meet your rep. It was set up for you to be able to see the new products, and it was set up for you to get the education that maybe you was looking for. It was set up for you to be able to sit down and relax, enjoy the products that you had come there and paid so much money to fly there and stay there. And that's another thing.
Oh my gosh.
You get a free fucking room if you're a verified fucking buyer.
And you know what? We loved staying there. I love staying there.
Oh, the
100%.
fucking Sahara, man. Forget about it, man.
My
And I
room
don't
was
know
so
that.
much better than
did they
yours.
take
It's great.
everybody in the Sahara, or did they? Was there other hotels?
The other
I
one
don't
was
know.
the other one was Resort World too. They had two. It
Oh
was
my
the Resort
God! I
World
wouldn't want to be in Resort World.
and it was Sahara.
I'm never staying anywhere else.
I
Unless
mean, I
somebody else
loved
pays
it.
for it. If you pay for it, I'll stay somewhere else.
Yeah, but I loved the Sahara,
If I go back to Vegas, I don't give a fuck. I'm going there.
and that's saying something.
Yeah,
you were
because
very good.
I loved the Westgate.
Oh, I mean it. You did. And you know what? I loved it for the aspect it was like really close by and everything. Everything was there. But really, like, I don't really care.
The sports book?
I like the sports book. The sports book I do like. But again, I would give up the sports book to stay at the Sahara. And that's saying something because
I know. And I realize that. But I mean, I'm telling you, I have never felt so at home.
And I didn't even really explore that hotel. I didn't really even explore it because I was mainly in and out. I was in for like one day. I got there like Tuesday night at like 11 p.m. Flew out on that Thursday.
And you was really tired.
Yeah, I was in and out. I didn't have time to really look. So
yeah, you were really, really tired.
Yeah,
and
that was 11 p.m. Vegas time. That's not what I'm used to.
Right, I understand.
So, but no,
all right,
I
Bill.
would love to come back.
So we're going on right at an hour, so we gotta wrap this up.
I know. We
So,
talked all day about this.
Again, three different shows,
3 different shows,
and one is a beginner show, all pro, which I don't even know if they still do.
I think they do.
And then I have been to MJ BizCon, which I think is a complete fucking waste of money and time.
Yeah.
It is a large show, but there is no business aspect unless you are completely into cannabis and you are completely into manufacturer and distribution. Everything else, waste of time.
Yeah. I mean,
Waste of time.
There's
one area, and I'll be damned if I give somebody $400 to show up just to buy products. I'll be damned.
Yeah,
if I didn't get it for free, I would have never went. Never. You could not have paid me to go. I did get paid to go, but so I no, and I wouldn't waste the money to show up there. I lost money to that show because I paid to get there. I paid to stay, but I was paid to be there and be a part of it. But it just wasn't. And then there's Alt Pro. Alt Pro is a beginner show.
Yeah.
And then I have been to some other little regional shows that I wouldn't recommend either. But I mean, it is what it is. But I mean, Champs is a social party show.
No, that's very true. It's very
and I
much.
mean, if that's what you're looking for, and you want a little release and a break from your mundane life of behind
you
the
want to
counter,
go to exactly.
and but remember, Vegas is expensive, so be prepared to pay to party.
Yep.
But on the other hand, TPE, man, with them covering your stay and with all that you had to offer,
yeah,
and again, Champs has multiple shows across the United States, so it ain't just Vegas. I just only like the Vegas shows.
Yeah, that's true.
But apparently the New Jersey show, but they say it's more of a regional show. The Miami's a regional show. The Texas is a regional show. The Chicago is a very regional show. You can
we went to Chicago
one fucking day. Fucking day. That's all you need.
Yeah.
And so
because like we were talking about regional shows, maybe we decide we want to go to do those shows. Maybe.
Let's just see what happens.
Yeah, we've talked about it, but there's also things that we are talking about also, too.
Well, let's don't get into that.
Yeah.
Because people like to troll me here on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and they're very, very afraid.
Which I think is very telling.
But I don't understand that, man. It's two different worlds.
That's exactly like, and you know what? It kind of goes with how you run things. You're very business oriented. Do you know what I'm saying?
Here's all I'm going to say about it, and this is the last thing I'm going to say about it. If you act like a shithead things happen to you.
Exactly. And on that
All right,
note,
everybody. That's it. Done.
we're
That's
done.
it. Done. All right, Bella, thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. This is a almost an hour episode, but I mean, it sounds like a praise fest and a bitch fest. But really, man, this is just a very contrast and comparison of the shows. And believe you me, man, these are made for different people and like people, depending on what your goal is for your visit to the trade show.
Exactly. And that's what we're trying to point out is there is a difference. For every single person, there's a show for you. And it's really doing that research into it. What is the show for you? Champs might be your show because you might be going there to expose your new brand, or you're a new buyer and you don't know where you need to go because there's so many products there. And really that can kind of get overwhelming too. And you just want to see what's there. What is the industry looking like? And you know what? I've always said what Champs looks like is very telling of what's going to happen in the industry.
Me too.
And that's a good thing, is because then you're looking, okay, this is kind of where it's pivoting to because there's so much of this. I probably need to get something like this in my store.
If I am seeing it in California, which is what Vegas does, I will soon be seeing it in Kentucky.
Yes. And so
I always use Champs to forecast what was going to happen in Kentucky within the next 30 to 60 days.
Exactly. So at that point, that's a good show to see the future of things, of how things are going to pivot to certain things. Because a lot of times at Champs, they do like your big brands like TKO, things like that, right? That's when they show their new products, is at the Champ show. It's normally the summer one is when they do it. And they show the big one, the new brands of what they're coming out with. Like I'm just using TKO as an example because that's normally what they do, is they show those new ones. And so at that point, you're going to be able to see how things are going to pivot.
Right. But then as far as TPE goes, I mean, I think we could also say that TPE is for, okay, I need to order this today.
Yeah.
I need to be able to talk to my rep today. I need to get that shit shipped out by tomorrow. And I need to be able, by the time I get home, have that coming in and be able to sell it.
Exactly. It is a very much, if you are going to buy something, you go.
That's the show.
That is it.
If you're a purchaser today, that's your show.
You got the mindset and the control to make a order. That is where you go.
All right, then let's wrap this up. All right, so that's what we got, everybody. Bella, I appreciate you doing this, and y'all, it is what it is. That's what I always say. Joe Clark said it best. It is what it is.
It is
all
what
right,
it
y'all.
is.
So look, I appreciate it, and thank you, Bella, for doing this, and we'll see y'all next time.
Bye.
Bye.